This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Reporter Show, made by fans, for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and joining me today is Andrew's going to give us this week's topic.
Well, we all knew this day would come eventually, but it looks like the day is finally upon us. Lions and Matthew Stafford have mutually departed ways. We will discuss it. Plus, Lions made a lot of actually pretty impressive hires. We'll talk about both. It's a Fan Report.
So out of curiosity, and I want to know your viewpoints on this, but how mutual do you think the agreement was between the Lions and Matthew Stafford to part ways?
You know,
do you think it was one side saying, it's not you, it's me, we had some good times together, but it's time for a change, we just can't progress in our relationship any further?
I actually thought initially that it was pretty mutual because it made sense. A new regime coming in, completely reevaluating the roster, and at the same time, Matthew Stafford kind of being tired of losing / not really wanting to stick around for the rebuild. It made sense that it was completely mutual. But then the report came out today that a big reason why he wanted out was because he actually wanted Darrell Bevell retained.
Yep.
And it's starting to sound like it was actually more on Stafford's side. And I don't blame I'm happy for him. I don't blame him. I want him to go win somewhere.
So when I heard the news break initially, I kind of was skeptical about it being mutual. From the beginning. Like I had a feeling that the Lions wanted to keep him around more than he wanted to stay, just based on what we had been hearing from the front office, the ownership, everybody who makes these decisions, that they wanted to keep Matthew Stafford around. So it felt to me from the get-go that this was entirely Matthew Stafford going to the front office saying, I want out. And I started hearing reports that he was the one who went up to the front office and said, I'm not going to be here for rebuild. This isn't what I want to do. I want out. I want to go somewhere where I can win now and be competitive. And, I'm nearing the tail end of my career here. So it's time. I had a feeling that, and then I started hearing reports that Matthew Stafford was the one who approached the front office and the coaching staff saying, trade me. And then we obviously got the report today that he wanted Darrell Bevell to stay, and they obviously didn't keep him. So he wasn't the guy for the head coaching job. So honestly, I'm happy. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for both sides, in all honesty, because I want Matthew Stafford to go somewhere and win. I don't think he can do it here. And I want to see the Lions turn a new chapter and begin, turn the page and begin a new chapter and start writing their own story that isn't a story, co-authored by the Patriots, or a story co-authored, or a continuation, a sequel of the Matthew Stafford and this regime and the way that things are. There's never been a total new leaf turned over. It's always been, there's been some form of continuity or continuation from the previous regime that's kept things going and kept things the way they are. And he was one of the major common denominators in that. So the Lions in this organization, and as fans, were able to close the back cover on this book and begin a new one. And obviously we had some good times, but we had a lot of lows, and we were never able to get to where we truly wanted to be. And so it was time to end things. And so I'm happy. I do think Matthew Stafford can go elsewhere and win. But I also do think that it's time for this organization to move on.
Yeah.
It's you're allowed to look at both sides and be happy for both. It's okay. Eventually things run their course, and I think it just has here. The thing that I'm most excited about is, though, the fact that there could very possibly be a bidding war for Matthew Stafford. There's as many as 8 teams who have called and questioned about Matthew Stafford and the Lions' asking price for him. And I've seen reports for his asking price from anywhere all the way down to, or all the way up from the Jamal Adams trade last year, that the Jets, the return that the Seahawks gave the Jets for Jamal Adams is the starting point for Matthew Stafford, all the way down to you won't even get a first-round pick. You're looking at like a second and a third for next year. Like I've seen such a wide range of trade options thrown out there, and it's probably somewhere in the middle. Let's be real. The thing that I've seen the most thrown around is a mid to late back end of the first round this year, thrown in with a third maybe for this year or a second or third next year is really what I've seen to be the starting point in conversations, which, Andrew, curious to hear what your thoughts are on that. As you know, what do you think the asking price for Stafford's going to be, and what do you realistically think teams are going to be throwing out there for him?
Interesting you should ask that, because I actually have something queued up just for that. Stephen Holder, The Athletic, actually put out a really interesting article that kind of puts everything in perspective in terms of what we can expect in a Stafford trade. And what he did is he looked at QB trades across recent history and what those QBs went for. So the farthest back he goes, and so I guess this is a little less relevant because it's a little bit older, but 2002 with Drew Bledsoe, Buffalo sent its 2003 first-round pick to New England, which is 14th overall for Drew Bledsoe straight up. But I think one that's a little more relevant, because you also have Brett Favre, but Brett Favre was at the tail end of his career, so he obviously wasn't going to command that when Brett Favre got traded to the Jets. Jay Cutler, when he got traded in 2009 to Chicago, Jay Cutler netted a first-round pick in 2009 that year, and he netted a first-round pick the following year, plus a third-round pick, and Kyle Orton, quarterback Kyle Orton, all for Jay Cutler. That's probably on the high end of what you can expect for Stafford. I'm not saying you're going to get 2 first-round picks for him. You could. It's certainly possible.
What was surprising about that Cutler trade wasn't he like 30-some-odd years old when that trade happened, too?
In 2009, I don't think he would have been 30 yet.
When was he born?
That would answer our question if we knew when he was born.
19... No, that's a different...
He would have been 20. He would have been like 26.
26. So there's your big difference there.
Yeah.
His age difference is massive. Yeah. Plus, I think the contract was a pretty big difference as well. Stafford's got a much larger contract. Granted, he's only got 2 years left in the deal. The cap hit isn't that bad next year. So,
well, if you want one that's exact age as Stafford was or is, Carson Palmer in 2011 was how old Stafford is now. Traded to the Raiders for a first and a second round. So you have a first round pick come back there. And then Sam Bradford in 2016 got traded to the Vikings for a first and the common thing we're seeing.
Sam Bradford got what? First and a what?
First and a fourth.
Okay. So
common thing we're seeing here is a first round pick, and I am of the belief that the Lions better be getting at least a first round pick for Matthew Stafford, or else I feel like you're kind of getting gypped. It's a 32-year-old quarterback who 33. I still. Well, yeah, he'll be 33 next year. Who I still believe is a quarterback that can win. I don't think he was the real issue with the Lions. I don't think the issue is Matthew Stafford. I do think Matthew Stafford on a good team can win football games and can win playoff games. And you're getting a guy who you're going to get at least a few good years out of. So I do think a first-round pick is in the cards for the Lions, and I hope they can actually squeeze out a little more, but at a minimum, a first-round pick should be in the return.
So I'll be completely honest with you, and I'll go back to the Carson Palmer and the Sam Bradford trades here in a second, but I'll be completely honest with you. Until the final 3 games of the year, I would have been honestly ecstatic if we got a first-round pick for Matthew Stafford, because the way he played this year, mixed in with another year of nagging injuries and injuries that kept him out of games. That's 3 straight. That's 3 straight years where he had injuries that either kept him out of games or affected his play. And he's got a degenerating back at this point. And at 32 years old, in the nearing the twilight of his career, he's still in his prime, technically speaking, in terms of quarterback world. But I would have been surprised with the play we saw this year for them to get a first round pick for him, because I really didn't think the market was there. The last 3 games happened, and then we saw Phillip Rivers retire. We saw Deshaun Watson want out. We saw, didn't we see someone else retire too?
Yeah, Drew Brees.
Well, Drew Brees is mulling retirement. He hasn't officially retired.
Oh, I thought he said, didn't he come out and say that last playoff game was going to be his last game?
No. He said, I would think about it. I will be mulling retirement last I saw. I do not believe Drew Brees has retired officially. But Tom Brady could potentially retire. I mean, there's a lot of teams out there that could be looking at, needing a quarterback that's in the back end of the first.
Sure. Real quick, from Jay Glazer, he said Drew Brees will retire after the last game of the 2021 NFL playoffs. I don't think there's been an official announcement yet, but I don't think there's much uncertainty around it.
He is the only one reporting that. I'm just going to throw that out there. Jay Glazer, as far as I know, is the only one reporting that. Last I had saw, it is apparently likely for him to retire. Okay, so he is likely to retire. Last I had seen, though, he said he was mulling it. That there was possibility he could come back. It's not likely, though. But again, regardless, the Saints need to look at a future quarterback, and they're still in a window to win now, so they probably want someone who's established. But with that being said, with the bidding war that is, at this point, I am looking at a first-round pick as a starting point. And I don't really pay attention to the Jay Cutler trade because you had a completely different situation with a 26-year-old quarterback on a much cheaper deal than you do now. And Drew Bledsoe trade, I don't even look at that. But looking at the two trades that I think are the most indicative of what we're looking at here as to what we can have a return, the Sam Bradford and Carson Palmer trades in particular, and primarily the Carson Palmer trade, because when I look at Matthew Stafford and his career, it looks a hell of a lot like Carson Palmer before he went to Arizona. Does it not? Playoff appearances, but no major victories, but a lot of stats. Very similar career paths to that point. So, and then obviously Carson Palmer ended up having a lot of success with Arizona as well. But that's why I say like the Carson Palmer trade is one that's a real telltale of what we could be looking at with the Stafford bidding war. And the thing is I think that's more of a starting point because I think teams will try to outbid each other. There's a lot of teams that could use Matthew Stafford and end up being Super Bowl contenders if they add him to their roster. The Colts, the Niners, the Saints. There's a lot of teams out there that could potentially be real true contenders. The Panthers maybe even. That roster's not bad. They just didn't have a great quarterback this year, even though Teddy Bridgewater wasn't bad. But either way, though, I do look at that Carson Palmer trade to say that's probably the starting point. And I saw a lot of people on Twitter especially saying, like, look at the Jamal Adams trade. That's your starting point right there. Quarterback's a more valuable position. I'm going to stop you right there and say, throw that idea out the window because safety and quarterback is comparing apples to oranges. One, you're talking about probably the best player at his position in the game in Jamal Adams. Two, he's like 25 years old. So I
didn't hear that. Like, this is the first I'm hearing of this.
Oh no, this was all this. I've seen this like all over Twitter. I've seen it in a few articles that were written, like Jamal Adams trade being what you could potentially get back. Like, I'd throw that out the window entirely because I don't think there's any comparing the two trades there. You're looking at a situation where the Seahawks really wanted to add secondary and they were trying to win now, and that was the one piece they needed. Nobody's looking at the quarterback in that way. Like, it's the Seahawks overpaid for Jamal Adams, one, to begin with. Two, it's a 25, 26-year-old player in Adams who is the best in the game at his position. Stafford is neither one of those things, or even close to either one of those things. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to get the Jamal Adams type return for Matthew Stafford as a starting point, especially. That would be like, if we got that, I'd be doing the helicopter dance outside in the snow. Like, I would be ecstatic if we got that kind of return for Matthew Stafford.
So what's your expected return?
I expect something around the lines of like a first-round pick this year and a third-round pick this year. Maybe we throw a fifth their way. Or if we want to go a first and a second, maybe a first this year and a second next year. Like that's kind of what I'm looking at as our return for Stafford, because I think that's what its value is. Yeah. A back end first round. Like the teams that are up near I'd say the pick 16 is like the cutoff point. The teams ahead of that, they're not in the market for Matthew Stafford. Let's be real. Outside of maybe the 49ers. That's the one true exception because they have a ready-made team. They just didn't have the quarterback play, and they were decimated by injury. That's the one true exception there. Denver, maybe. But those teams are more in play for a guy like Deshaun Watson. The Miami Dolphins of the world. The New York Jets of the world. They're in play for Deshaun Watson, not Matthew Stafford. Mm-hmm. So I'd look at, a late teens, early 20s first-round pick. I'd look at the Colts. I'd look at the Patriots. I'd look at the Saints, somewhere around there as the pick to be looking for Matthew Stafford to go. Now, if the Niners end up calling and saying, hey, we'll give you our first-round pick and then a pick next year or whatever, I'd probably say yes. Like, that's a good pick there. Is it as good as yours? No, but it's a good pick.
No, I agree 100%. I mean, and anything more, like, I'd be, just because I say that's what I'm expecting, I'd be happy with that. It's not like I wouldn't be happy with that. I'd be very happy with getting a first round and maybe like a mid-round pick, like a third rounder or a fourth rounder. I would be ecstatic if you got 2 first rounders somehow, but
like I said, you get that kind of turnaround, I'm probably doing a helicopter dance in the snow.
But you do it. Like, let's not ignore the fact that we have the potential to do that because of the fact that you have such a widespread bidding war here. You have an 18 bidding war.
It's not that
you can drive the price up.
I mean, eventually they'll say, go take a long walk off a short pier. Like, there's no doubt that they're eventually going to say, yeah, see ya. But it doesn't hurt to play the game carefully and smartly and try to drive up the price a little bit. Say, hey, the Colts offered this. Call San Fran, say, hey, Denver offered this. What do you got? Sweeten the deal. Your first round pick's not as good as theirs. What else can you give me? Can you give me a second and a third round pick? A first, second, and third. Maybe the second's next year, but the first and the third are this year. Play a little bit with this bidding war, and maybe we can get something extra.
Anything else on the Stafford stuff before we get to the hires?
Before we get into the hires, though, I don't have anything else on Stafford, but I did want to ask you a question. Now knowing that Matthew Stafford is not going to be your quarterback next year, are you hell-bent on the Lions taking a quarterback early in this draft? Knowing that the alternative is Chase Daniels being your quarterback starting next year, possibly.
I don't know if hell-bent is the right word. Like, the pieces got to fall in place, but at the same time, I think quarterback's my top priority. I
will say this.
You got to make it. You got to try to make it happen. Like, you can't just sit idly by and hope it falls to you. Like, you got to try to get a quarterback, but if the price becomes outrageous to move up and there's no chance that the guy moves down for you, there are other players on the board that can help. It's a long-term rebuild. Doesn't have to be so you get a quarterback, but I would like to see us grab a quarterback this year.
Say we get pick 21 for Stafford. Would you package pick 7 and pick 21 to move up to, say, like 4 or 5 to get a quarterback? Because I would, because you're probably looking at Justin Fields or Zach Wilson at that point. Now, I will also say this, and I do have one other Stafford-involved trade that I want to throw out to you that I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And this is a pipe dream. But this is never going to happen because I don't think it would ever be in play. But
I got a list of trades for you.
If the Lions are sitting at number 7, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, and Trevor Lawrence off the board, are you drafting Trey Lance at number 7 at this point, knowing we do not have a starting quarterback next year?
No.
I am. I'm 100% running up to the podium to grab Trey Lance. He is one of the highest regarded prospects. He's arguably better than a higher rated prospect than Zach Wilson. He was the number 2 prospect behind Trevor Lawrence for a hot minute in this draft. He's still a highly regarded name. He's got a lot of arm talent. And the reason I'm saying yes, I'd run up to the podium is because you have to start somewhere. Like the problem with waiting until next year to get your quarterback is what happens if you're outside the top 5. You're in the exact same position you are now.
See, I'm of the mindset that if we don't have a quarterback, there's no chance we're going to be outside the top 5. But at the same time, there's no guarantee you're going to have a good quarterback next year. So, there's no,
that
immediate prospect
mixed in with the fact that there's still bad teams in this league. Just because you're a bad team, the Lions are bad this year. They're still not in the top 5.
Yeah.
You're every bit as bad as somebody else out there, but maybe you get a lucky bounce somewhere that someone else doesn't get. You could still end up outside the top 5 or even at 5 or 4 and still not get the guy you want. You could still end up with the 3rd best quarterback prospect out there. So that's why I'm saying I'm going to go the dartboard mentality here, and I'm going to throw as many darts at the dartboard at the quarterback position. If Trey Lance doesn't work out this year, maybe I draft another quarterback next year. Screw it. We're rebuilding. What do we have to play for at this point but to get better?
So that you just got to, I think it's just at number 7, you also have to weigh what else you can get. But at the same time,
what else you can get, but what value does it add to you? What if Trey Lance hits? What if he's good? And if he doesn't, well, you got next year. You're still probably pretty bad either way.
A quarterback hitting has a bigger impact than a linebacker or a wide receiver hitting. So.
Exactly. I'd rather take the chance at the most important position.
So Chris Burke and Nick Baumgartner, also The Athletic, they put out a few trade scenarios and what it could result in terms of draft capital and actually players in trades with teams that would be in the market for Stafford.
All right, give me one and I'll give you mine. And then give me the rest of yours.
I'll give you my favorite one then first.
Okay.
Trade with Carolina.
Okay.
We get their number 8 overall pick and a future day 2 selection. And with number 7 overall, we take Justin Fields. And with their number 8, we take Micah Parsons.
That's a pipe dream.
That is a pipe dream.
I'll tell you right now, that'll never happen. I'd be shocked if the Panthers are willing to give up number 8 for Matthew.
Wouldn't happen because of the Panthers not giving up number 8, or because you don't think Justin Fields will be there at 7?
Both. Both are a pipe dream in my mind. 1, I don't think Justin Fields will be there. 2, I don't think the Panthers would be willing to give up number 8 to get Matthew Stafford. I don't. I think that's too high of a pick for him. I just don't see it. I don't think the Panthers are a team that's so ready to win now that they need to go get Matthew Stafford right now. I think there's still a lot of holes with that team that they got to add elsewhere. That number 8 pick is far too valuable for them.
It'd be nice seeing Matthew Stafford, Christian McCaffrey, and DJ Moore.
Hell yeah, it would. That receiving core is freaking good. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Curtis Samuel, like all three of them were really good this year. But no, I don't see that happening at all. That obviously would make me go nuts. I mean, you address two dire needs at that point with two really high-end prospects
both
in
in
Micah
the top
Parsons
10.
and Justin Fields. Like, that would be amazing, but there's no way. The trade I saw, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because I actually texted this to you, but I don't think you responded. I think it was to you and our buddy Alex, but
I don't think I saw it.
trade with the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
Stafford in number 7
Okay.
for Tua. No, Stafford in number 7 for Tua and number whatever pick they have. I don't remember what pick they have. I think number 3.
Here's the thing. I would probably use that number 3 pick on a quarterback and having Tua. Like, I was higher on Tua before the season than I am now, because while he wasn't terrible, he also wasn't great. He was serviceable, and he had a lot more flaws than I was anticipating.
He struggles to move the ball because he doesn't throw downfield that much. But again, I think that's going to come with time. Like, you got to remember, Tua wasn't supposed to play this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. But just for the number 3 pick alone, I think I'd say yes.
I would absolutely run up to the podium and say, I fleeced you if we got that. Matthew Stafford's not of value to us outside of draft capital. So if you got me number 3 and Tua, hell yeah. I don't think that's ever going to happen, though. I think
now, would you take a quarterback with that 3 pick, or would you take someone else?
I'd probably trust in Tua. I'll be honest with you. I'd
taking Devontae Smith then, giving him his wide receiver.
Probably. I'd probably trust in Tua and develop around him. Yes. Now, mind you, I think at this point, with what Stafford's value is and what Tua is, and the youth there on the rookie deal, plus the number 3 overall pick value, I think you're probably going to have to give a first round pick next year to get any type of movement on that trade. So you'd have to give up 7 and your first next year for Tua and number 3, and I'd still do it. I'd still do it.
All right. Another trade with San Francisco, another quarterback needy team that could be in the market for Stafford here. Lions get the 49ers first round pick, which would be number 12 overall, and a second rounder, number 43. With the number 7 pick, we take Trey Lance, and number 12, we take a tackle, Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech. And then we take a linebacker, Chad Straff, North Carolina, with that 43 pick.
I love it. And you're telling me we get 12 and a second round pick? I'd be ecstatic with that. That's how you take advantage of the bidding war.
I do find it interesting that in one scenario they had us taking Justin Fields at 7. The other scenario they had us taking Trey Lance at 7.
Probably Justin Fields.
Decide, is he going to be available or not?
They probably threw out different opportunities. Again, if Trey Lance available at number 7 is the only quarterback there, I'd take him.
All right. Now this is the last one. There's one more after this. But this is where things get a little juicy here. This is a 3-way trade with New England and Miami. The Lions trade away their number 7 and number 15 to Miami.
Well, where'd we get 15 from?
I should start from the beginning. We get the Patriots' first overall pick, which is number 15 overall in the second rounder. Then we trade that 15th overall pick and our 7th to move up to number 3. We're not getting Tua from Miami in this scenario. And then we take Justin Fields at 3.
So we have 7, 15, and a second round pick from the Patriots. Obviously, 7's ours.
And we move 7 and 15 to move up to 3.
To get Fields. What does Miami get in this?
7 and 15.
Oh, duh. And New England just gets Stafford?
New England gets Stafford for a 15th overall and second rounder.
Huh. I mean, okay. Unbiased me says, yeah, I'd do it. Absolutely. You have a chance to, I want a quarterback with our 7th pick either way, so I'd love to go get one of the higher-end quarterbacks in this draft. Biased me says I'm still not sold on Justin Fields because he comes from Ohio State, and I don't know that his play style translates to the NFL.
That's a legitimate question.
But, however, again, going with the mentality I'm going with, knowing I need a young quarterback to build around, yes, I'd do it.
I agree. I think I do it. My question to you is, though, would you rather be sitting there with 7 and 15, or would you rather have 3?
It's a good question. I'd like to see what happens at number 2.
Yeah, because if you have questions for Justin Fields, you may actually be better off sitting there at number 7 and probably landing a guy like Trey Lance or Zach Wilson, and still having another.
Don't get me wrong; those guys come with questions too.
Yeah, I know they do.
But that doesn't. But I also have my number 15 pick to help me. But either way, I think I throw darts at the dartboard and get the higher end prospect in Justin Fields here.
All right, final scenario: trade with Indianapolis. We get the Colts
This is the one
first,
I think is most likely.
which
Indianapolis.
is we get their first round pick, which is 21 overall. Their second round pick, which is 54 overall, and an extra pick or two on day 2. They didn't specify. So with the 7th pick in this scenario, they have us taking Micah Parsons, linebacker. And then with the Colts' 21st overall pick, they have us taking Gregory Rousseau, the edge rusher at Miami. And then with the second rounder we get from the Colts, we take Rondell Moore, the receiver out of Purdue.
I don't love the Rondell Moore pick. I'll be honest with you, because the dude had an insanely good freshman year, and then he sucked the rest of his college career. I think he's an overrated prospect. Loved him in his freshman year. Loved him. Or in his first year, I should say. Loved him. But since then, he's just been meh.
Yeah.
Very meh. So I'd go a different route with that pick. But I mean, I love Micah Parsons. I think he's the best linebacking prospect out there right now. I would love to have him on this team. But again, I'm in the belief that I see the problem that I have. Like, yes, the trade's good. Yes, I like the trade. First, second, and a day 2 pick, later day 2 pick. I love it. It's probably like what, a 4th or 5th round pick. Love it. The problem I have with the Lions going any position other than linebacker in the draft is like, there's a lot of teams out there that like to build their roster first and then take the quarterback. What happens if that quarterback doesn't succeed? So you have this great roster that you're wasting with a bad quarterback and you are middle of the road at best. Look at the Bears. Bears are a great example. They had this great roster and Mitch Trubisky at quarterback, and what were they? And they did. They built the team, and then they got their quarterback, and he sucked. Yeah. But because they had the team they had, they weren't bad enough to take another shot at a quarterback. So they had one shot to get it right. One.
And they whiffed.
And
bad.
they got it terribly wrong. And they suck because of it. Granted, they backed into the playoffs this year.
They could have taken Mahomes. They could have. Sean Watson. They could have.
They had one shot. And they messed it up, and they haven't been able to fix it since. They've been scrambling, trying to get Nick Foles. Scrambling.
Would the Bears be a dynasty if they had either Watson or Mahomes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the idea of building the team first and then getting the quarterback, in theory, it's great. Yeah. But you better hit that quarterback pick because you will not get another shot. You will not. That's why I'm in the mentality that I'm like, all right, screw it. I'm just going to throw as many darts at quarterbacks as I can and just hit one. And then I build my roster with a guy still on a rookie deal.
I think you might have just sold me with the Bears analogy.
There's more than just the Bears, too. Like, I know, it's not just the Bears.
Because, I keep thinking about the Bears because of the fact, can you imagine how insane the NFC North would have been if you had that Bears team with the Packers as they are right now? And the Vikings, even though they're a little bit underachieving, but still.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm like
suffocated in the division is what would happen.
Exactly. We'd have no shot. We may as well just play some in the NFC East. Can we transfer? That's why I'm in the belief that get your quarterback first and then build around. That's what you got to do. Because like in the Bears situation, because the team is so built around the quarterback is good enough to not lose, they're not ever going to get another legitimate shot at a quarterback until the roster depletes itself. Yeah. And that's just the nature of the things. And as things go on, and you are trying to take another shot at the quarterback, well, some of these guys who have been performing really well around the quarterback, well, they're going to get more and more expensive, and you're not going to be able to keep them. That's the problem. So then the team starts to fall apart, and you're back where you started. So just get your quarterback, make sure he's good. If you got to take 1-2 years in a row, do it. Make sure you get your guy. You're still on a rookie deal. You've got 3-4 years before that rookie deal's up, and you can build the rest of the roster through the draft and free agency and even trades if you need to, and you've got yourself a Super Bowl contender. Get the quarterback, build the rest. That's why I'm on board with taking Trey Lance at this point. Once I heard Matthew Stafford's not going to be there, that was my decision. Yep. Am I still in the belief that maybe you bring in Sam Darnold and give him a tryout? Sure, fine. He's still young, but I'm still taking a quarterback at pick number 7. I'm telling you right now.
All right, let's move on to some of the hires that were made. Should we start with Anthony Lynn?
Let's do it. Start with coordinators. We already talked about Aaron Glenn. So
yeah, we already talked about Aaron Glenn. Don't need to hit on him again. But Lions brought in Anthony Lynn, the former head coach of the Chargers, as their offensive coordinator. Now, he was an offensive coordinator before with the Bills. You a fan of this signing, Nick?
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. And you're going to begin to see a theme with a lot of these hires, and it begins with Anthony Lynn. I love it. Anthony Lynn, in my opinion, took a rookie quarterback and a team that was decimated by injury. A good team, don't get me wrong. Chargers are a ready-to-win team, but a decimated by injury team led by a rookie quarterback and turned them into a 7-9 football team that honestly could have been better, too.
No, I agree.
I don't think he's a great head coach, but I think as an offensive mind, that's exactly what we need.
And that's where I really wanted to touch on real quick was I'm even more sold on, even though he was only an offensive coordinator for 1 year, but that year in 2016 with the Bills, he took a roster of Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, and you had Robert Woods and Brandon Tate as your wide receivers. And your focal point was LaShawn McCoy at the running back spot.
And he wasn't very good, if I recall, right?
No, he had a great season that year.
Did he?
But
okay.
Top 10 offense in the league with that roster.
Clearly, the guy knows how to make quarterbacks better.
That roster has no business being a top 10 offense. But, yeah, Tyrod Taylor threw for over 3,000 yards and 17-6 touchdown interception ratio.
Not great, but it's not bad.
Not great.
Never. It's not going to,
And they were still a top 10 offense.
That's the thing is Anthony Lynn is a guy who, he makes quarterbacks better, in my opinion. We throw around that quarterback whisperer mantra way too much in today's day and age. It's just overused to an extreme degree. But he really does get the most out of the quarterback position from guys who you really wouldn't expect it from. Like in the case of Tyrod Taylor in Buffalo and then Justin Herbert this year. I truly believe Anthony Lynn was a big reason for his success this year. And the thing honestly that I'm most satisfied and comfortable and happy with in this hiring of Anthony Lynn is something we talked about last week and really pressed on, is there is an obvious glaring lack of experience with a lot of the hires that they made. A first-time DC, a first-time head coach, a first-time GM. Well, here's where your experience is coming in. Anthony Lynn. He's a guy who's been around the league. He's been an OC. He's been a head coach, and now he's back to the OC. He's got experience. He's an experienced guy this is where I said Dan Campbell and his connections around the league are going to allow this team to have the experience to mold this the way we need it. We have the experience. We have the youth. We have the raw. We have a lot of potential here with the staff being put together the way it is, with a great mixture of new set of eyes with an old set of eyes and building it together. I love what the Lions are doing to surround the inexperience with experience. And Anthony Lynn's a great example of that. And he's not the only one. Yeah,
you want more experience? How about John Dorsey? John Dorsey being brought in as the assistant GM.
I thought he was supposed to just be an advisor.
Is it an advisor?
I think it's just an advisor position. I don't think he's assistant GM.
Oh, yeah, he's front office consultant.
Yeah, he's a consultant position, which John Dorsey was a guy we talked about and liked for the GM position. So for him to come to the front office and be a consultant for the GM, this is a situation where Brad Holmes can learn from an experienced GM. I am a little curious about John Dorsey's a big personality, a larger-than-life personality who has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I'm curious to see how much he's willing to let Brad Holmes make moves and not say, no, kid, you can't do that. It's got to be done this way.
He doesn't have the decision at the end of the day.
I understand, but I'm curious to see if he doesn't get his way, if he just says, fine, then I'm out kind of situation. Which I'd hope the Lions would say, all right, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. But
he's absolutely a guy that Brad Holmes can certainly learn from. I mean, like we talked about when you were talking about him as a GM candidate, his resume speaks for itself. He built that Chiefs team, and that Browns team you saw in the playoffs, he built that too.
Exactly.
So I feel like you mitigate the risk of the larger life personality by not having him as the full blown GM and just having him as a consultant.
I am curious to see what the Lions will do. I'm curious to see how the power dynamic's going to work, because you got to remember, Chris Spielman still got decision-making power, and then you've got John Dorsey, and then you've got Brad Holmes, and there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen here, and a lot of people with strong opinions that may or may not be able to make decisions. Obviously, Brad Holmes is, but I'm curious to see if there's going to be any headbutting going on between some of the higher ups in this front office in terms of roster makeup and decisions there. I think it'll be entertaining. I think it'll be really worth paying attention to. And I'll be honest with you, again, like I said before, the front office and the coaching staff needs to have some experience put in there to kind of help guide the inexperienced but talented other pieces. And John Dorsey is another example of that experience that can help guide the right way.
Now, we also hired a pair of former Rams. One just breaking while we were talking about John Dorsey.
Really?
Yep. The Lions hired Rams cornerback coach Aubrey Pleasant for the, I believe he's the passing game coordinator.
Interesting.
Yeah. Secondary coach / passing game coordinator. So he's coach of secondary and he's a passing game coordinator. And we also hired Ray Agnew, who was director of pro personnel for the Rams. It does look like Brad Holmes is hiring some of his buddies to come in and help out. But
every coach does, or every GM and coach does that.
Let's give you a little bit of background, though, on...
I love the Agnew hiring, by the way.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a second here. But let's give you some background on Aubrey Pleasant. This is from the Rams defensive coordinator, Brandon Staley. He said that he was vying for Aubrey Pleasant to take over as a DC, as a full-blown DC in any position, really, but potentially replacing him as well. He said Pleasant would make a ton of sense as the Rams' next defensive coordinator. He just finished his 4 seasons as Rams cornerbacks coach, working under Staley and Wade Phillips. The Rams have had one of the best cornerback units in the league in recent years, led by players such as Jalen Ramsey, Darius Williams, Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib, Tremaine Johnson, and Troy Hill. And then Staley also had this to say about Aubrey Pleasant. He said he's one of the elite coaches in the league. All you got to do is ask Jalen Ramsey, ask Darius Williams, ask Troy Hill about the relationship with Aubrey. He's a tireless worker. He's a tireless communicator. He can see the game in all levels of the defense. Sometimes as a secondary guy, okay, you don't know the back end. He knows how the front and back end tie together. In my opinion, this is the best body of work that I've put out in the NFL, says Aubrey Pleasant himself. And a lot of it is thanks to him. Sorry, I was Jalen Ramsey and Aubrey Pleasant. Said this season's been his best body of work. A lot of that is due to Aubrey Pleasant. But Aubrey Pleasant getting high marks within the Rams coaching staff and with the players. Obviously, there's not too much we know about the guy other than his, there is the question of, could he have been buoyed a little bit by the fact that he has Jalen Ramsey as his top corner?
Yes.
But but I have no reason to hate it. I have no reason to be super ecstatic about it. But do you have an opinion on this now?
Oh, I always have an opinion, Andrew. I mean, let me just say this. Mm-hmm. Having names like Jalen Ramsey, who has straight up turned into one of those corners where it is now Ramsey Island, Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib, sure makes your job easy.
Yep.
It's like being Aaron Rodgers' QB coach. Mm-hmm. Probably got the easiest job in the league, let's be real. Don't get me wrong. I do think Aubrey Pleasant is a guy who I would put near the top of my list, if not at the top of my list, for a secondary coach. Mm-hmm. And I like the fact that he's going to take both ends of this. I think it'll be it'll benefit both sides of the ball here with the passing game coordinator position and the secondary coach. I think he's got a lot to bring to the table for both sides of the ball. I just hope he wasn't buoyed by the fact that he had some elite level talent in Los Angeles. He really had some high level talent there. And we don't necessarily have that here. He's got his work cut out for him with guys like Okudah, who have a lot of potential. And there's a lot of raw talent there. He's just got to get it out. He's just got to bring it out and develop it. A lot of the guys that he had in Peters, Talib, and Ramsey were already developed and already well-known, established corners in this league. And we don't necessarily have that right now. He's got to develop this guy. So I hope he's able to do that. Again, though, I do like Aubrey Pleasant as the secondary coach as well as the passing game coordinator. I think he's got a lot to bring to the table.
Yeah, we know he knows how to use them, but can you develop them? That's what we need to know. The other guy we brought from the Rams, Ray Agnew, like we said.
Notice a theme here, though, with the defensive coaching here. We're a lot of defensive backs coaches.
Yep,
Aaron
and
Glenn,
with the
Aubrey
offensive side, a lot of running backs coaches, and we'll get to another one in a second, too. So, yeah, Ray Agnew, former director of pro personnel for the Rams.
He's going to be the assistant GM, correct?
Yes, I think he is the assistant general manager. I got my guys screwed up a little bit. Again, this is a guy that Brad Holmes worked very closely with in Los Angeles and / St. Louis. But so that like you have the established chemistry, you have an established relationship there. No chance or no worry of any kind of butting heads between the GM and the assistant GM. But that's like the big positive I could take away from this. I don't know too much about Ray Agnew because that's the only front office position he's held is director of pro personnel with the Rams.
Pro personnel and pro scouting, yes.
Yeah. Rams have brought in good pro talent. I mean, they've gone good draft talent, but they've done a good job of bringing in established talent as well. So, I mean, but a lot of them were no-brainers like guys like Jalen Ramsey. So
one of the things that I really, really, really love about the hiring of Ray Agnew, the Lions obviously made some bad choices in free agency in recent years, and the Rams have and have not. Like they've made mostly successful free agent signings. But one of the things I love about this is you took a successful franchise in the LA Rams and you got their top college scout and their top pro scout. So you've covered both of your bases to be the decision-making entities of this franchise. You have an expert in college and you have an expert in pro personnel in terms of free agency and trades and things like that. And they've done a very good job of bringing in talent from both ends. So you have extremely good balance, like you just mentioned, up at the top of this front office here in Brad Holmes and Ray Agnew to help them build this roster the way it needs to be built. So I absolutely love the signing because it covers all bases here. It's making sure all of your bases are covered and there's nothing left untouched here. You know, we're not going to have a guy who, okay, I'm really good at scouting college players, but I may not know the free agency pool as well. How much does this guy have left, you know, et cetera, et cetera. We have it all covered now. We have free agency. We have trades. We have college scouting now. So we have it all covered to where we are able to get the best talent possible on this roster. And that's what I love about the way they're doing things.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. And we have one of the things I take away from this, and this is before we even talk about our last guy, is we have a rookie GM. We have a rookie head coach. But they've done a really good job of surrounding themselves with experienced guys. And just look at Anthony Lynn and John Dorsey. Like, doesn't get much more experience than those two at their respective positions. So that's one of the big takeaways that I've gotten from these hirings is they've done a good job of surrounding the inexperience with experience and kind of balancing that out. And then you also mentioned the balancing out of, you know, pro scouting, college scouting in the front office. I'm liking what they're doing so far. And the last guy we got to talk about is Deuce Staley. Deuce Staley is joining as the running backs coach. He was formerly the running backs coach for the Philadelphia Eagles.
And assistant head coach.
For the head coaching job. And I think, he was the assistant head coach. Passed up or he's going to be the assistant head coach, sorry.
He was there too.
Passed up for the...
He was there
there too.
Yes.
But he was passed up for the head coaching job, and that was largely the reason why he asked out, and he pretty quickly signed here. I don't know if that's just the kind of pull that Dan Campbell has or what, but
I think absolutely it is, and I'm actually going to go as far as saying that one of the big reasons he asked out in Philly is because Dan Campbell wanted him here. Mm-hmm. I think Dan Campbell has that type of connection with people around the league that says, hey, come take a lateral move to come join me on my staff. Mm-hmm. I won't take you for granted the way they have. And that's what happened. The way that I'm seeing this coaching staff and this front office just shaping up, this guy's got a lot of pull, man. Let me tell you.
He's impressed me with that gravitational pull that.
And I mentioned that last week. Dude's got a ton of connections.
Deuce, I'll be 100% honest. And I told you this while we were texting about it. Last I'd heard of Deuce Staley was when he was a running back in the NFL. I actually had no idea that he was an assistant running back coach for the Eagles.
Let me learn you a thing or two here and give you some background on the guy as a coach. He's been the running backs coach with Philly since 2013. He has honestly become a locker room favorite in Philly to the point where players were sending out tweets, texts to the front office and ownership group that you need to hire this guy as the next head coach after Doug Peterson. Like, he needs to be the guy. He was a locker room favorite. Players loved to play for him, and they rallied around him. And he's a hell of a coach. And it got to the point where like players were so upset when he wasn't the guy that they had to have like that. Local media had to put out that he wasn't picked as the head coach. That local media had to put out articles and people had to basically come out and write articles about how the ownership group isn't racist. Like that's how badly this team wanted him to be the next head coach. And I think that is a telltale sign of what you're getting in Deuce Staley to take a lateral move to come here to be your running backs coach and assistant head coach. And that's something that excites the hell out of me. Because we've got young running backs, and then he can help with the coaching as well. Again, he's been with that Eagles organization since 2011, where he was a special teams quality control coach before he took over the running backs coaching position in 2013. I'm excited as all hell about Deuce Staley. I'll be 100% honest with you. And there's been a theme with the makeup of the coaches, and I think this is going to play into the hands of a lot of cohesion into how you're going to run your systems, into how you're going to, a lot of cohesion in terms of what you're going to do with the roster and your schemes. And on defense, it's very much been a focus on secondary, and on offense, it's very much been a focus on running backs. Because Anthony Lynn was a running backs coach for a long, long, long time before he became the offensive coordinator.
And a former running back. Deuce Staley, running back coach, former running back. And on the other side, Aaron Glenn, former defensive backs coach. Aubrey Pleasant, I believe he was a defensive back with the University of Wisconsin, never pro, but also defensive backs coach. Like you said, it's a theme here.
So I think it's going to make things very cohesive, very nice and easy to get going and run with. And I love the mentality of what the Lions trying to do here. Mix in inexperience, but talent with experience, and also talent. And the big thing I'm seeing as well is there's a lot of coaches here that players want to play for. Anthony Lynn, Deuce Staley, Dan Campbell. They want to play for these guys. And that's something that we were lacking here with this organization for a long time. And we got it now. So I'm absolutely entirely excited about this coaching staff and this front office for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I've said before, I'm multiple times in this show, I'm biased towards coaches who used to be players. And
they can level with them in a different way. They can. It's true.
It's a definitely departure from Matt Patricia. I don't even think he played.
He was an offensive lineman. I think he was
not
D3 though.
Yeah, exactly, D3.
I mean, the dude was a rocket scientist. He was clearly there for things other than football.
So, it's a complete departure from what we had, and it's direction I like where we're going with. So, anything else on the Lions? That pretty much covers all the coaching hires.
I think that covers pretty much everything there. Absolutely. Anything else to add before we?
Yeah, for once, I'm actually excited about the Lions, even though success is still a long ways away. But I'm finally excited about the direction the Lions are going. I'm finally excited about the direction the Pistons are going. Finally excited about the direction the Red Wings. Like, yes, all four of our pro sports teams suck right now. Yes, it's very true. But I think
there's some hope.
Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, announced it marks the first time that I've been excited for all four of them.
I'm gonna agree with you. I am excited about all four teams in the city. You see the Wings kind of starting to turn the corner.
Yeah.
You see the Tigers. Maybe we get to see some of their young talent. The Pistons finally seem like they have the right people in charge there. Now the Lions, they're starting to seem to be putting the right people in place. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying that this is going to work. But what I am saying is there is something to be excited about here because it seems like they're doing things differently than they have before. There's no common denominator left. There's no, outside of the Fords, but there's no trying to do things somebody else did. This is doing things the right way, putting a mixture of new eyes with old, putting a mixture of talent and inexperience with experience, and going that route and putting the right people in place. Like, there is a lot to be excited about. Is it necessarily guaranteed to work? No. But I'm very damn well excited about it potentially working, because this is the exact, this is what I want the Lions to do and what I want all of our organizations to do. Put the right people in place to make decisions and put the right people in place to develop and coach. And that's seemingly what the Lions are doing here. And it's about damn time.
For once. Jeez.
And we could totally be wrong. We could be sitting here 2 years from now going, what are we firing Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes? But God, I hope not, because I really want to
watch that show be week 2. Week 2. Are they on the hot seat? Oh, man. But yeah, finally the sun seems to be shining a little bit in the city.
I agree, because, again, we may finally be turning the corner for all of our teams. Finally.
No, I'm not saying to go bet your plus 20,000 on Lions win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that.
That ain't gonna happen. Don't do that. Maybe if there's a future for 5 years from now, you could try that.
Yeah.
Anyways, anything else to add for today?
That's all I got.
All right, that's gonna call for this week, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We will catch you guys next week. Lots to be excited about. Lots to think about. And a lot to talk about as well. So hit us up on Twitter at RealFanReport to give us your input and any of your thoughts there. But we'll catch you guys next week. Follow us. I already said talk about us on Twitter. So, Andrew, thank you for joining me. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast. And we'll catch you guys next week. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
Have a good one, guys. Peace out.
Peace.